All right, chapter 3, the lands of Etharis. Here you got some fine art. There's this little story happening here throughout the whole book that is really fun. It's really interesting. If you flip around and just read straight through that story, it really gives you a feeling for this world of Etharis. So you'll definitely want to check that out. I'm not going to go too much into the lands here because, as you know, we already have some videos on these different locations around Etharis. The Burak Empire is, of course, the large land of the Empire of the Humans far to the west. That is the dominant power. Here you get some clothing, what they dress like, different inventions, the crown. There's the Mad King there who has these 4 kind of garments that have gone missing from the gods, one representing each god. So a lot of story to be had there. Unterland. Then we have the Ostoyan Empire, pronounced either Ostoya or Ostoya, however you prefer, where the vampires live, and they are purely dominant there. Then you have the Valakan clans, more of a kind of, yes, the Grarjord, the Freljord, if you're into League of Legends and so on. The Vikings TV series as well. Lots of good inspiration there for Viking cold adventures. We're just heading up there now, actually, as a campaign. So then you can go far to the south, the Castinean provinces, heat, wind, and sand, very similar to Chaldeum and so on in Diablo. Many adventures to have there with these religious zealots and so on. And then we have the Charnaut Kingdom, where I need to speak with my French teacher, who can teach me how to pronounce all the things you will find in the Charnaut Kingdom with the knights and the royalty, as well as these native elves that are hiding out there. Charnaut. And it continues. Here we get some more details that you don't get in the original campaign guide on the languages of Etharis, as well as the currency that you're using. Like in Ostoya, they're going to not use the currency of the Burak Empire, and vice versa. And you can also get into some fun things with, all right, these guys are speaking in Valkia. Do any of you speak Valkia? And if you speak multiple languages, you could say, okay, yeah, like we speak Swedish here, we can use Swedish for the Valkia. Somebody who speaks French, they can use French for Charnaut. You speak some Spanish, you can use Spanish or Italian for Castinea, and use all these languages to immerse yourself in the world even a bit more. We then go on to chapter 4 with magic of Etharis. It is a world where magic is thought of as witchery. It's thought of as heretics would be using magic. It's something you need to keep hidden, and something that shouldn't be just flashing around everywhere. So it's not necessarily Harry Potter, although there are 2 locations, one in the northwest of the Burak Empire and another one in the northeast of the Ostoyan Empire, where there are schools of magics where you can become a licensed magic user, but you would have to use that magic within being with that faction. Like you'd have to, here's my license, I work for the Burak Empire, I'm allowed to use it, or as well as I work for, in this Ostoyan wizardry school. Otherwise, you're going to maybe really get noticed. There's a lot of things in this game that are going to make you get noticed by the common folk and bring down the heat upon you and your party. So not necessarily an adventure of heroes, more an adventure of hidden heroes in the shadows. And here they're explaining some of these wizard schools, renegade colleges. There's the societal mistrust, the divide. The divine in Etharis here, as we talked about, the gods have gone missing. And that is a problem in Dungeons and Dragons, because the way clerics and paladins work is that they are given their spells by their god, by faith and devotion. Now with the gods missing, there are still arch seraphs and the demons, and fiends, so they would get their divine power from an Arch Seraph, which could become like an NPC in your campaign that's helping your cleric or paladin along to get their divine powers. And that brings us here, where you get a short kind of description of the Arch Seraphs that are roaming around in Etharis. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we have the Archdemons that are walking Etharis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as well. And then there's these elemental entities as well, like lava, wind, the nature spirits, and they are also another spiritual-like element in the game. So all things that can influence, that could cause transformations. And with these ones here, very nice. I also would refer back to Diablo for using Baal or these Mephisto, these kind of devils and demons to bring into the dark fantasy world. Tyrael for the angels as well. And then the final form of magic, nature magic, as I just referred to, there are nature spirits, especially in the that elven region in northwestern Charnault, as well as in the Valakin clans to the north. And that's where you're getting your druidic powers and spells. I suppose the warlock would also be getting their spells from some sort of fiend here, or from the Filthgrazer in Lesich, perhaps. So there you have your magic. And we're moving on. Chapter 5, new subclasses. Now this is, for me, the crowning jewel of this book. They had a lot of big names in the industry working on these classes, not just the Australians who create this book, but they reached out, they talked to the Dungeon Dudes and several others to create these amazing subclasses that I definitely want to use. Now, one thing about these subclasses you'll want to think about, though, each of them are kind of a freak of nature. Each of them are something that's going to make the general populace not react kindly to you. So you're going to have to be this kind of dark hero choosing these. If you choose a more standard class, you can get by and work yourself around in society without problem. But these are borderline on being the bad guys. In fact, I get a lot of inspiration for some of the guys my party are fighting through these classes. So without further ado, we have to start with the Barbarian, Pact of the Fractured. Now, the Path of the Fractured has to deal with this kind of blood that's gone, you see, this mutation happening, right? When they get their rage, they mutate. And this would actually work quite well with the aberration transformation. So yeah, things are twitching out, going nuts when you rage, and people are probably not going to react very well to that. And then you have the Pact of the Primal Spirit. So this barbarian archetype is going to be a little bit more with using spirit animals. This is a half-orc, which are quite rare in the world. So again, maybe Valakin clans or elves or races that are not integrated too well in society. You could play as the Barbarian, Path of the Primal Spirit. You're able to see a little bit here. You can always pause the video, check it out, or pick up the book. I think it runs for around 40 to 50 euros. Maybe I'll put a link below.